This call is being recorded.
About 2 o'clock. Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
My name is
Radio.
Taye Zedeye.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me? I can hear you.
Yes, Doc. Welcome to Jersey Ghana Radio. Is that Dr. Taye Zedeye?
That's correct.
Yes. Did I get the name right?
Yes, you did.
Excellent. Excellent. And welcome officially for the first time to Jersey Ghana Radio's program, Anything Africa. We do this.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We do this every Saturday. Every Saturday for 2 hours. We deliberate, discuss, and sometimes even argue on some important topics affecting Africa and the continent of Africans and the continent of Africa. And today is no different. We are waiting for, I think she's on there now.
I'm on the line.
Yes, that's,
Adango, are you on the line?
Tsigereda, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, okay. I can hear you. How are you? Salam, everyone. Thank you, Ghana Radio, again for doing this great program.
If you can raise your voice, a little bit, that would be great.
Oh, okay.
Hello?
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear
Hello?
me? Hello?
Hello?
Hello, let me call you with another phone. Sorry.
Hello?
I have to call you
I
back.
can hear you.
Did I lose them?
Hello? I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
The line is very faint now.
Yes. Let me change my phone.
Hello?
It's better. I'll call with another line.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me? I can hear you clearly.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay, so it's good now. All right. So let's get going now.
I'm trying to call you.
Taye Zedeye. Pardon me if I didn't get your name right. And,
that's fine, no problem.
Tsigereda, who is not new to our program, we do this every Saturday. And today we are going to take a critical look at 2 countries in Africa, Ethiopia and Congo. Unfortunately, there are serious conflicts that need critical look at the situations in both Ethiopia and the Congo. So we'll start the first hour with Ethiopia. And for most of our listeners, you know Ethiopia and Africa is inseparable. In fact, why? Because Ethiopia is Africa's oldest independent country and the second largest in terms of population. It has some solid historical perspectives. First, our oldest Orthodox Christian church, and so many history, deep historical tendencies in Ethiopia. But then Ethiopia has also had its problems. Some are man-made, like many African countries. Some are maybe natural, like the droughts and farming, and so on and so forth. For today, we are going to look at some of the serious conflicts that is affecting and inflicting Ethiopians. And since Ethiopia is a very key player on the continent of Africa, anything that happens to Ethiopia is bound to have repercussions. So we'll go to you, Dr. Taye. Give us, we know Tsigereda had given us before, but almost every day we get new listeners and people who might not know. Can you take us to memory lane? Why Ethiopia is at the state that it is in now?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank you and your audience for the opportunity to give us, to explain the current situation in Ethiopia. And I'm very, very encouraged with what you do, and we always get feedback from my colleague Tsigereda. By the way, my name is Taye Zedeye. I am the current chairperson of the Ethiopian People's Congress for United Struggle. That is, we call it Shengo, which is composed of 11 organizations, both civic and political organizations, and respected individuals. And the reason, allow me to go a little bit back, and I will come back to your question. The reason why this organization was formed is the country was, as soon as this government, the current regime came to power, the country was divided along ethnic lines. The very existence of the country is under threat. It is currently. Certain ethnic groups are targeted. The ethnic cleansing and inciting violence in different parts of the country has been reported by several respected organizations like Human Rights Watch, Genocide Watch, Amnesty International, Freedom House, the Committee for Protecting Journalists, or CPJ, U.S. Department of State, Higher Commission for Human Rights, European Union, and so on. So there was a void of united opposition force. That's why to fill this void, this Congress or the Shengo was formed. With this a little bit of background, the current regime in Ethiopia is a dictatorial regime. And like many dictators, it just listens to itself, and it doesn't take the ideas and views and the good thinking of the population into account. They just want to impose their whatever they want to do. And like all dictators, some they don't run elections, some they do run elections, and they say 99% they won by 99%. In 2010, the current regime said they won with 99.6%. In 2015, which we anticipated, they say they won by 100%. Can you believe in a country of 102 million people, and where there are many, many groups and opposition groups, genuine opposition groups, where a single seat in the parliament, 547 seats, is not won by an opposition group? There are many reasons. And prior to the election, the Shengo, our Ethiopian People's Congress for United Struggle, we actually 3 years and 3 days today, we have issued a press release saying that for the election to be free and fair, and a democratic institution to be built, or democratic governance to be in the country, we have stated few preconditions, like the election board should be neutral, free access to media for opposition group, independent judiciary, freedom of movement of opposition to go and organize and make their campaigns, stop intercepting opposition funds. Local and international observers were required, and we also requested or asked there should be a guarantee that the 2005 election will not be repeated, which is post-election when people protested, when the opposition won, the people protested, they went in broad daylight, they gunned down thousands of or hundreds of Ethiopians in broad daylight in the city of Addis Ababa. And we also asked for security forces to be independent or free and serve the nation and free political prisoners. These things were not fulfilled. Because of this, as we anticipated, the election, quote unquote, was won by 100%. Now, why am I giving all this? It's just for the benefit of your listeners, to just bring them up to speed how things started and where we are at now. Where are we at now? Currently, the country is under state of emergency. Probably your listeners are very aware, why would a country declare a state of emergency? When there are natural calamities, yes, the government has the right to declare, but if there are natural calamities, they need everything to go to the front and overcome that calamities. Yes, they do that. If the country is under threat for any one reason, yes, they can do that. Why did the current regime in Ethiopia declare current state of emergency? Because their power was at stake, because the people said no to the current regime, because the people wanted their freedom. So the only way of containing this or keeping it at bay was just to declare a state of emergency. That 6 months passed, and just last week they extended it, the so-called parliament, which was 100% the current regime's supporters, they extended it by another 4 months. And the prime minister was not ashamed to say that the people of Ethiopia requested the extension of the state of emergency in one form or another. 82% of them responded or asked the extension of parliament. How on earth would the people of Ethiopia, where their freedom was freedom of movement, freedom of speech, where the political space was narrow, and when they cannot express themselves, when political prisoners, political leaders and supporters are imprisoned, how on earth will they ask for extension of the state of emergency? The only reason was just to their power was at stake. The reason was they had this so-called master plan around Addis Ababa, and the residents around there, predominantly the Oromo-speaking people, the youth, they started opposing that, and they were demonstrating, they were imprisoned, they were tortured, they were killed. And then in northwestern part of Ethiopia, another movement started. In the Amhara region, I hate to use the region because it is the current demarcation of the current government. Mostly the Amharic-speaking individuals started fighting for their rights. And the turning point was when they said, the Oromo people, the blood of the Oromo people in the south is our blood. That was a threat to the government, and then that was when the state of emergency was declared.
Dr. Taye, let me, are you talking about the Ethiopian People Revolutionary Democratic Front?
No, that front is in power. I am talking about...
That's what I mean. Yes. Now, I wanted to ask Tsigereda a follow-up question. That's why I wanted, because you had mentioned about ethnic cleansing. Now, who are being cleansed? Is it minority? Is it majority? Is it the southern people, the northern people? Can you explain or not? Maybe let Tsigereda comes in here now and explain to us who are being the victims, who are being victimized ethnically, and why. Are they majority? Are they the minority? Is it because some of their people were never given the chance, to move up economically or socially, So Tsigereda, take us to the geographical aspect of the ethnic cleansing. Where are they located in Ethiopia? Or maybe is it across the whole of Ethiopia?
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity, as always, Mr. Kofi. First of all, to identify which ethnic groups are subject to ethnic cleansing, I think I want to revisit one of the major problems that has been instituted in Ethiopia, which is the Ethiopian constitution, which is a legal and political document. Like an authoritarian regime such as Bahrain, this constitution starts with preambles, nation and nationalities, as though there are different nations living under one Ethiopia, loosely attached, and which means that it has been separating them through ethnic politics and ethnic policy, which in this case, one of the two major elements that have been the target of this government have been the Amhara ethnic group, which is the second largest group in Ethiopia, and also the religion called the Orthodox religion, which makes up perhaps 34% of the believers. The reason why I'm saying this is under the manifesto of the Tigray Liberation Front, they have this idea of eliminating or eradicating the Amhara, which is the ruling party in the past, supposedly, when the fact lies to be 95% of the Ethiopian people being oppressed. Therefore, when they came to power in 1991, they have this political program that they translate into a constitution with their allies. In 1994, the constitution ratifies the separation of nations, different nations who are ruled by a central government, but actually excluding most of its, the mass of the people. That includes everyone except the ruling class. However, the Amhara have been, as they admitted in their own 2000 population census in the parliament, that 2.4 million Amharas have been missed. But there are certain areas where they have been identified through economic problems, through political imprisonment, human rights violation, gross, solitary confinement problems that they've been subjected to, and that includes also the Oromo people. This is to say that while the Amharas were most identified, but the Oromos also have been going through this, and then the other aspects of the Ethiopian people, those who are not sharing power, have been the victim of this government. And the ethnic cleansing usually refers to the Amhara people, where Dr. Taye mentioned the Amhara region, which right now they are fighting the government. Some of them, they went to the woods to fight against the government. They want to have their own identity respected. They want to live like a human being with human rights. Respect to the rule of law be implemented, so that they can survive as Amhara, as Ethiopian, so that they can live like any other human being in the world. So the Amharas are the one that have been identified as the one that's been in that area. So are the Oromos, because of the mass killings again that we see. That's what has been going on. However, I think the population of Ethiopia in general have been the victim of this suppressive government ever since, especially after 2005. There was free and fair election, which almost 24 million people came out to register, and 94% of them voted, in which over 84% is claimed to be voted for the opposition, but the government crushed all that and decimated the opposition parties, arrested most of them, and 196 people died. In return, in 2009, the government, instead of allowing openness, political openness in the system, it implemented the 2009 anti-terrorism proclamation law that results in criminalizing the exercise of fundamental human rights. So this has not been repudiated by the international community to fruition, because they still have this Proclamation Act, the Terrorist Proclamation Act, that jailed journalists, as Ethiopia being the fourth jailer in the world, next to Bahrain and all those totalitarian regimes. In fact, there's an article written in 2005 by Al Jazeera called "Journalism is Not Crime." So there is no human rights, for everyone who would like to live in Ethiopia within integrity of Ethiopia, as someone who can move around from one state to another without any conflict, without being ethnically challenged, because even investment has been, in that respect, controlled by the government, because everything is ethnically defined. That's the issue.
Let's jump back to Dr. Taye. You said something interesting. You said during the last election, 100% of the people voted for the ruling government. Is that correct?
Sorry, there is interference. Can you repeat what you said?
Yes, you said the ruling government in the election got 100%. Everybody voted for the government.
Yes.
Okay, now, what did the international community say about that?
Thank you for asking that question. As my colleague Tsigereda said, freedom of speech is non-existent in the country. The proclamation of anti-charities and also anti-terrorism act allows people, the regime, to do whatever they want, suppress by all means. In some instances, there were even ballot boxes that were pre-stuffed and counted. In any case, thank you for raising the question. The point is, the international community, particularly the West, the U.S., and some European countries, they are in bed with the current regime, simply because the current regime is saying that we are fighting terrorism in Africa, particularly in East Africa and the Middle East, and they get support from the West. America, U.S. under Obama government was a very good friend of the current of Ethiopian regime. So the people have no voice. We are trying to be the voice for the voiceless. The people have no voice to even say what they can or what they want in the country, or the media is under the control of the regime. Free press is suppressed. 79 journalists were forced out of the country, in addition to the fourth country being chasing or putting journalists under prison. It is the second in Africa. So the people, we have, those of us who are outside of the country, we do communicate most of the time as organization and as with our families and friends. We know what the people say, but they do not have voice to air that out. And the international community, they don't care. Honestly, Ethiopians are the ones who should solve their problems. So now the time has come where, despite the fact that the regime was trying to divide and conquer, divide and rule, the people are saying the blood of Oromo is my blood. The Amharas are saying that they have tried to put the wedge in between these two largest ethnic groups of the country ever since they came to power. So the people have no voice, and the international community, they don't care. They just assume, okay, it was democratically elected. It doesn't matter whether 100%. Any rationally minded person would tell you that there is something wrong. There is no way that 100% vote would be obtained by the current regime. So the international community, they don't care. Ethiopians, we do care, and that's why we're trying to organize. We're trying to make our voices heard. And thank you for giving us this opportunity also to let the voice to be the voice of the voiceless to your audience.
Well, it looks as if some Ethiopian leaders do not like public demonstrations at all, and public opinion, because if I remember accurately, Mengistu also fired on demonstrators. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I did not follow you. There is some kind of interference. Can you raise your voice as well?
I heard you.
Let's see. Maybe let me see something, because we do get these interferences. I'm looking at the screen, so I will be able to tell exactly where it's coming from. What I mean is that it looks as if some Ethiopian leaders don't take public demonstrations kindly at all, because during the time of Mengistu, he oppressed, if I remember very well, some demonstrations, and I believe fired on, was it school children or something?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so why that we know that at least Human Rights Watch have at least declared that over 500 people have been killed, and now the government comes out, according to what you just said, that people have demanded further state of emergency extension, right?
Right.
For what? For what? So people.
Before my colleague jumps in, let me just make this point clear. The people did not ask for the extension of the emergency. It is what the regime is telling us and the international community. 82% of the people, the prime minister, the current prime minister of Ethiopia said, 82% of the people asked for the extension of the emergency. It's not the people. I don't know who the survey, where they surveyed this. It's just fabrication, as many things that they are very professionals in fabricating. So the people did not ask for extension. It is the government, the regime that said the people asked them to.
So the West is in bed with the ruling government of Ethiopia. And yet we know that the West, at least the US and the powers in Western Europe, are very, very quick to condemn some human rights, not some, human rights abuses in some countries. Why are they being selective? Or maybe the West think that the government is doing everything right. Is that not it? Why would they support an oppressive government when the West is trying to sell its democratic dispensation?
Is that for me?
Yes, anyone of you can take it. What my thing is this: why is the West supporting a repressive regime when at the same time this same West is so quick to condemn human rights abuses in several other African countries, or maybe other developing nations? And then I'm saying that maybe the government is doing everything right. Well,
we wish if the government was doing everything right, Dr. Taye and I would have been in Ethiopia developing our country, helping our country move forward. But it's not. The state of emergency is extended because the government wants it. The people rejected it. I don't think anybody on earth would like to be under the state of emergency that prohibits the use of internet, that prohibits you from moving around from one place to another, with a curfew to live in, and who you talk to, under state control. This is martial law, literally. And then no one would support that. So I want us, the audience, to understand that nobody would like to have this terrorizing government, terrorizing any human being, and nobody would want to be ruled by authoritarian, and that's not voluntary. Having said that, why the international community supports this government is because this government allows, especially, this government is an ally of the United States and AFRICOM to support the struggle against terrorism. This we all, I think any human being, any Democrat, any Republican, even as ideology, we are all one together in this. We are against terrorism. But because the Ethiopian government is willing to stand with the United States government against terrorism, or Al-Shabaab in that case, that's on the Horn of Africa in Somalia, that alone would give a blind support to the Ethiopian government. And that's unfair because the amount of money being received from the United States government or the American bilateral assistance has been estimated more than 30 billion. And also the Ethiopian government has received 44 billion from the official development assistance, ODA. All this help that comes to justify to help the Ethiopian government continue its repressive regime is wrong, and it should be condemned by all, because the root of this American democracy is to care about democracy in the expansion of human rights and the respect of the rule of law. But the American government in the past 25 years in total, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, has allowed the Ethiopian government to terrorize its own people. That's wrong. So this is the opportunity for this government, meaning the international community, is that Ethiopia is fighting against terrorism. Thank you.
Well, okay.
May I just throw a few points on this the question that you raised?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. You said maybe the current regime in Ethiopia is doing everything right. That's why the West maybe that's why they are supporting it. I will just throw a few points that the current regime in Ethiopia is not doing things right. For example, as recent as the end of last year, one of the leaders of the opposition, the biggest opposition party in the country, it's actually a coalition, the vice chairperson or the chairperson of another organization, after his visit, which he was invited for a panel discussion in Europe, invited by European Union, upon his return to Ethiopia, he was thrown into prison. Still he's in prison, Dr. Marara Guddina. There are other leaders who were thrown into prison, Mr. Baqqala Garba and others. They're not only thrown into prison, they're tortured. Second, when because of this land grab policy that the regime instituted, the country's most productive land, by evicting citizens who have been there for millennia, they're evicted from their ancestral lands, and the land was given for investors, so-called investors, cheaply, like $1 per hectare in a long-term lease, 99 years. Is this doing good for the country? No, I don't think so. When you bring this state of emergency and you cannot talk, you cannot speak, you cannot write, is it doing something good? No, it is not. I just like to bring an example of the former Ethiopian president, which served under the current regime, Dr. Negasso Gidada, when after he was done with his term, he wanted to run as an independent, and he was trying to organize or campaign. He couldn't even rent a hall. He couldn't even talk to people. Mind you, forget the common people. He was the former president of Ethiopia. Because he was not in line with the system, after a while, he was not allowed to do that. The security system, 1 in 5, the organization that's spying, family members spying on you, husband spying on wives, and wives spying on their husbands. This is very common, known to the people. There is nothing that the government is doing right as far as human rights and democratic rights are concerned, and the territorial integrity of the country. The very root cause of the problem in the country is the undemocratic, dictatorial, ethnic-based government. So the West, why do they turn their blind eye? Because it's none of their business. It is our business, Ethiopians' business. A country, the citizen of a particular country, in our case Ethiopia, and Africans in all African countries, it is us who should bring about the democratic governance in our country, in our countries. So the West, why is it turning its blind eye? Because their interest is actually, in the case of Ethiopia, their interest is being promoted under the administration of the former President Obama. When he gave a talk at the African Union, he accepted and he gave a good talk the first day about the Ethiopian democracy. And on the second day, he changed the tone a little bit. Why? As my colleague said, the Ethiopian government pretended that they're fighting terrorism and Al-Shabaab, so it became the ally of the U.S. For this reason, they don't care. Secondly, the Ethiopian government has very many lobbyists who are lobbying in the West, highly paid lobbyists. That amount of money that they pay for lobbyists should have been put back to develop our country. So they play the game that the West wants to do, what they want to listen. They tell them and they believe them. Even if they don't believe them, their interest is not. They're supporting or helping advance their interests, so they just turn their blind eye. So it is up to us Ethiopians, up to us Africans, to look after our respective countries.
I think the producer wanted to come in. Zedeye.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brother Kofi. I just wanted to chime in on that question, why the West is actually supporting the current Ethiopian regime. You said probably it's because they're doing the right thing. No, it's not because they're doing the right thing. When you go back to the history of the way the West has dealt with every other country in its policy on international relations, it's only to back and support a regime that fosters its ideal, agenda for that particular country. You can take the case of Nicaragua, what America did in Nicaragua, supporting a dictatorial regime until that regime was overthrown and a democratic government was placed, and then America went back to punish Nicaragua for choosing a government that was opposed to the Western ideal. The same case has happened with Libya. The same case has happened with Sudan, Somalia, Syria. The same case has happened in Iraq with Saddam, and every single country that has had a dictatorial regime has been supported by the United States and the Western allies only if that leadership is supporting the agenda of the United States in terms of its international policies. So we should not expect it to be different with Ethiopia.
Now, let's ask them now. What is the stand of the UN in all this? Anyone can take. What is the stand of the UN? If the West, the US and the West is not supporting a good cause, what is the stand of the United Nations?
All right. The United Nations, when it was established in 1945, I guess, and in 1948 they have the Human Rights Declaration to provide peace and democracy to the world. We don't know why it's short of now. One of the reasons that you'd get in communicating with them is that they cannot enforce those because of the government should be responsible to address issues. The economic rights, the political rights, social rights, cultural rights are stated under human rights. So it's the responsibility of each government to do that. But that's not what's happening.
One second. Hold on one second. I think we have someone just came on the line with an international number. I'm not sure. The last four digits is 4599. I hope the person is listening in to us. Do you have any comment, question? Someone with probably from Ghana, I believe. Go ahead. If the person has a question, the person can go ahead and ask. But sorry to cut you. We usually allow our listeners to ask questions and comments. We'll be opening the line soon anyway. But sorry, go ahead and finish your narrative.
Right now, the UN is focused on Sustainable Development Agenda, which are the 17 points. Therefore, what it's looking is overseeing everything that comes in like a barrier, for instance, challenging each government who's an authoritarian as long as they are encouraging development. But what's development in a country of Ethiopia where there are currently 20 million people who are hungry, where you have the poverty rate of 29% as we speak? And then they would say, hey, World Bank projects like 7 to 10% growth in Ethiopia. If that's the case, then is growth always a good measurement for any country to reflect the basic areas of a long, healthy life, access to knowledge, and standard of living? No. The only one that shows that is the Human Development Index. When we look at the Human Development Index for Ethiopia, the UNDP itself has reported that in 2015, it's 0.44, which put the country in the low human development category, positioning it at 174th out of 188 countries. And imagine, we discussed this before, but Ethiopia is also the member of 47 LDC or least developed countries in the world. So if we're seeing this, the facts numbers don't lie. We see human beings all over the places in Ethiopia. Just recently, if you heard about the Koshi disaster, is where 113 people got killed under a rubble, under a sunlight. These are people who are living in shacks, who are living in this plastic-covered houses on garbage. So they eat the garbage of the leftover from the haves. Those who have, those who are the rich, the 1%. So children and women have been subjected to die under a rubble. Okay? And then we see what's going on. What's the major problem? Because there is a disproportionate or conflicting economic investment or wrong public policies in place that exclude the vast majority of the people, giving us huge income disparity between the rich and the poor. So we have to look in those areas. And UN is only psyched up with the development plan. It's disregarding the human rights, because had it been that important to them, they would have acted for the past 25 years, because AU, African Union, is in Ethiopia. When the 2005 killing 197 people were killed, it was in front of AU. What have they done to protect Ethiopian?
Well, you know what? I was my follow-up question was going to be the AU, because you know, I I asked about the UN, and then naturally I was going to ask about the AU, but you said it. Now, tell me, Dr. Taye or Tsigereda, or maybe the producer or the co-host, why is Ethiopia trying to build a space program when people are hungry? I mean, I'm kind of confused. So maybe Siddiq, maybe Prof. The co-host is on there anyway. Dr. Kwame Akono, the whole co-host of the program.
I'm here. Don't worry.
Yes, I yes. So maybe you can help here. Why is Ethiopia trying to build this space program in the midst of hunger? Because at least minimum, according to published report, about 5.6 million are in need of. Drought, severe drought coming is staring at least 5.6 million people immediately. So why the space program? Maybe manners will be falling from heaven. Maybe someone can help here. Meanwhile, our listeners can call in 973-409-6422. We have like 15 more minutes to go. 973-409-6422. You are listening to Jazzy Ghana Radio's Anything African. We do this every Saturday between the hours of 2 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. And this is Kofi Ayim with the co-host, Dr. Kwame Akono, and the hard-working producer, Siddiq Abubakar, and our technician, Bella, is so wonderful. You know what? At least today's program is being controlled from Ghana. That is the power of technology. Today's program is being controlled from the mountains, the Kuape Mountains of Ghana. All the machines are there because we have a satellite station also, the Jazzy Ghana Radio, so they are manipulating it from there, and then we are able to do this now. So you can call if you have any question, 973-409-6422. This is Jazzy Ghana Radio. Coming up between the hours of 3 to 4 is not only Ethiopia that is in crisis, Congo. So 3 to 4, we're coming up to discuss Congo. But for now, we have 15 more minutes or so to go on our theme, critical look at critical situations in Ethiopia and the Congo. Dr. Taye, I've all the time been fascinated. Apart from all the problems that we know and what you are telling us, additional ones that you are educating us on, Ethiopia Airlines still remain one of the best, not only in Africa, but in the world. And so many other African countries' airlines have collapsed, including that of Ghana. Whether it's public, or private, or marriage between public and private, few African airlines have folded. Ethiopia Airlines has been consistently growing. What is this? I don't understand.
Okay.
Dr. Taye, you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to say a word or two about the space program that you cited.
Okay.
When you have a dictatorial system, they just decide whatever they want. I have nothing against technology or against advancement of science.
Okay.
But is this really what we need now? Should we continue in this path? And what for? What is the benefit? It is not cheap. It is not like starting a small company. It is, you have to invest in millions. Somebody else financing them. We don't know. We just don't know. It is in the mass media that we heard. The people of Ethiopia have no clue why this started. And this is one of the things that dictatorial governments do. So no consultation, no information, you just hear in public. So although I'm not against advancement of science.
Hold on, Dr. Taye. You are not in Ethiopia now, at least I believe. You are outside Ethiopia.
No, I am not.
And you are saying no consultation. Consultation with who? Who should the government have consulted?
The consultation with the people of Ethiopia. What are the priorities? What is needed? Has it been discussed with the people of Ethiopia? Did they agree on that? Did the representatives say yes after the consultation with the people? Is that what we need? As repeatedly said, there are 20 million people who are in need of food aid. 5.5 of them under hungry situation now. By the way, Ethiopia can produce not 2, 3 season crops if investments are directed towards that. So all this famine that we have been hearing, all these hunger-related deaths that have been happening in the past. Yes, there was rain failure every now and then, but if we direct our resources properly, we could have overcome this without any assistance, without any foreign assistance. But we do appreciate the support that the international community is giving. So again, coming back, we have to set our priorities right. The country is not poor as a country. What we lack is governance. We don't have good governance. It is bad, and worse. The former military regime, it was killing people, but the current regime is killing the country, giving a chunk of land to next door and dividing the nation along ethnic lines. All this time, in my short life, we were fighting against the regimes, against dictators, the military junta, and the current government, the people against the government. But currently, it's purposely inciting people, one group of people against the other, one religious group against the other. And yet, guess what? The good news is Ethiopianism is still strong. People say we are not separating. We are living in this land and we have to inherit our land to the next generation. So things are not as bleak. Ethiopianism is still strong. The people have said enough is enough and they are struggling. Although they are respectful of authorities, they are forced to pick up arms and fight in the northwestern part of the country. This is purposely done by the government. The opposition is also talking among each other so that we form a strong united front and bring a democratic governance. If we do have this democratic governance, the question back to the UN issue and the AU that you raised, they're paying tons of money for lobbyists. UN, yes, they do say this is human rights are violated and it stops there. No measure because they don't have teeth. There are lobbyists there, both Ethiopians and non-Ethiopians working for the government. So if we do straighten or get our priorities right, the country can and will overcome the current situation. It's only temporary setback. We have seen this in the past, and the people are still united. The people still want their freedom. The people are still fighting until there is peace and freedom in the country. The struggle will continue, and it will not be too long that the country will be free again from this ethnocentric dictatorial regime.
And the airline and the Ethiopian government.
Sorry, I forgot that part. Maybe Tsigereda will go on that. But one thing that is clear is in Ethiopia, not only the airlines, in the past, the educational system was very, very strong. And airlines, the management, the technical aspect, and everything was up to international standards. There was no shortcut. That's why Ethiopia has been training fellow Africans in Addis Ababa in the airlines regime. But guess what? Now that system is controlled by the ruling group, particularly the party although it is the EPRDF, the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front, that is just a mask, a cover. It is the TPLF, Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, who is managing the wealth of the country, and all economic sectors are dominated by them and their associates. So Ethiopian Airlines is no different, but the standard was what they inherited from previous governments, which was high, very high standard.
The co-MC, please. You are a political science professor, so we have 6 minutes or so. So we need to hear your perspective at least. Prof.
Yes, sir. It's just a question I have. I just want them to think a little bit more critically here. So, and thank you all for coming, by the way, Sophie and Dr. Taye. But most of the developing countries are suffering from this idea of development and democracy, as we're talking about right now. But they didn't develop on the same level. They used authoritarian regimes to develop. They didn't have, there was no human rights, considerations. Of course, there was no women participation, blacks, slaves, all that stuff. Why do you think Ethiopia should be any different? And why can't Ethiopia use the same methods? It's just for you to think about. I'm not supporting it. I just want you to think about it and respond.
Thank you, Professor.
Now.
Okay. I'm going to quickly underline something here. The developmental democracy, state development like China is adopted by Ethiopia. But the difference between China and Ethiopia is the Chinese model encourages incentives on nationalism, on being China being the one that's leading the world. There is no ethnic difference, ethnic violation like in Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, as I mentioned earlier, the constitution supports the cessation of one of the nations, as it is like 9 nations altogether, loosely attached, to dismember if needs be. So they use the ethnic division to control and conquer. When people are under a controlled dictatorship, they cannot have the incentive to invest, to move around. You don't see capital mobility, social mobility as free as possible, because it's only the few on top controlling the movement or the economy. So this government is the one that's controlling the entire economy, the political power is centralized. So developmental states, that can apply for Singapore and other countries. But in Ethiopia, the reason why it's not going to work is due to the problem that's facing with ethnic policy, which is instituted in the Constitution, in the preamble of the Constitution, Article 39, up to secession. Okay? So that is the main problem. However, if we have a democratic government, like the United States or we would support United Nations eradication of poverty. That's our theme. We would support the United States policy to fight against terrorism. In fact, if there is a democratic government in Ethiopia that's inclusive of development, inclusive of social movement, and all that, if democracy is given to all, if there was an openness in every essence of it, then that region would be secured, peaceful. And actually 80% of the professionals live out of Ethiopia, especially the medical doctors. Okay? Human trafficking. Okay? 65% of those informally are living through human trafficking. And they ended up sometimes getting killed or their organs being arrested. And you could remember the 163,000 people in Saudi Arabia who have been cracked down by the Saudi Arabian government. Those are immigrants. We would not have experienced that if we have a compassionate democratic government that would allow respect individuals and group rights at the same time in Ethiopia and respect the rule of law. But that is absent. Having said that, airlines has been always known in Africa, one of the best. If this government try to keep it that way, good for Ethiopia. We have no problem supporting the Nile. Nile is a big dam in the world, perhaps, and that would benefit our country. But we have to be very careful also. Are we going to have our people first? Are we going to secure our people? Meaning, for instance, 5 Scandinavian countries who are poor in producing oil or anything, they only are focused in producing agriculture. They are agriculture-rich country. Ethiopia could be also agriculturally rich country. It could feed its people. Even it could export. Still they export, even though the people are not being fed. But it could feed the people and sustain development. Thank you.
I'm sorry, yes. I think we'll let Dr. Taye, this is his first time on the program, to give his final, summation. 2 minutes, please, because it's 3 o'clock and we have to move to the other segment, which is the Congo. But of course, if you want to listen to the Congo discussion, you are welcome to listen to it. But we have one of the brothers already from Congo joining in. I see he just called from San Antonio, Texas. We'll come to you soon. And let's wrap up with your summation. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. We have said many things about Ethiopia, why it is under the way it is right now. What is the way out? It is not as bleak as it is because the opposition is coming together so that we bring a democratic system. The only way out of this, the current crisis is, or what we have been experiencing the last several years, is smooth transition of democratic governance. For a smooth transition, all stakeholders of the country, whether they are inside of the country or outside of the country, they should have a say. There should be a democratic system there so that they can voice. As repeatedly mentioned today, Ethiopia is not, as a country, is not a poor country. It can not only feed itself, it can export food to other countries. So we need a peace and reconciliation system process to be started soon. That we have seen that it works in Rwanda. It works in South Africa. It works. Before it goes worse, we have to stop it. Otherwise, we might not even we might not see the Ethiopia that we know in the next few years. So to stop that, a smooth transition to democracy should be instituted by peaceful, democratic peace and reconciliation system. And the opposition, they are ready to do that. Now the ball is at the court of the ruling system. By the way, there was a negotiation between 22 parties in the past little while. It was already dead in arrival. The major opposition groups in the country, they withdrew because they say we will not advance, we will not go anywhere. It was only time buying mechanism by the government. So okay. I'm glad to report that our organization, the Shengo, which has already 11 organizations within it, is working with another 8 organizations to bring this big united front who can work with still organizations, other organizations, this contribute its share in the smooth democratic transition of Ethiopia. I like to thank the host for the Ghana Radio for giving us this opportunity. And I really, on behalf of Shengo and my colleague, Tsigereda, I will say thank you again, and we'll meet again in another topic. Thank you.
You are welcome. You are welcome, both of you. And we'll just go for a very quick commercial break from our sponsors, and then we will join Brother Bushala Buamba, who is already on here with us. So hold on for us. Let's go for a real quick commercial break, and then we'll come and start the Congo discussion. This is Jesse Ghana Radio, Anything Africa. We'll be right back.
You say?
Oui.
Yeah, you up next. The Bushala Buamba. So that's the name they have for our invite.
Okay. When we get there, you will tell them you are the man, I guess, that will explain everything, and
okay.
The second to
okay.
You can just say Francois or Masanka, one of the two.
Yeah, usually between me and you, I don't like that Francois name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Okay. Maintenant, connecté d'abord.
I guess we're not going to get I guess we're not going to get an ad from our sponsors. So we'll move on to the next segment, which is Congo. Critical look at the crisis in Congo. And I believe that Bushala Buamba.
Yes, sir. Bushala Buamba.
Ghana Radio for the first time. And we just finished 1 hour segment on Ethiopia. And, there's some things burning, burning in Ethiopia, Congo, and some other spots in Africa. But we can do so much within 2 hours. And this is your first time coming to Jersey Ghana Radio, so we welcome you once more. My name is Kofi Ayim, and we have co-host is Dr. Kwame Akono, who is a political science professor, and our hard-working producer, Siddiq Abubakar. Now, we are expecting Mr. Kambale to join us and Professor James Small also to join us. But you take us to Congo. The Prime Minister recently resigned. Is Sami
Badibanga, yes.
He recently resigned, under some power sharing deal. But we want to find out exactly what has been the major cause of all this conflict in Congo. It goes on, it comes. It looks as if it's sleeping, it wakes up. It escalates. People said, come in, and it falls. What is happening now with a president, Mr. Kabila, a young man, 45 years, who would hopefully will be in office till maybe late 2017, and then, see how things progresses. Is it because of him, or there is some inherent problem which has been causing all this havoc in Congo? Can you give us a perspective on the root causes of this problem?
Well, thank you very much for giving us the time. Actually, my name is Francois Masanka, and I'm together with my colleague Bushala Buamba.
Okay.
We are calling you from the United States. We're calling from San Antonio, Texas.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity. But based on your question, the situation in Congo, DRC, and generally in Africa is all the same. We cannot point the fingers at ourselves and the leaders we have, because most of the leaders we have for a long time now in the continent of Africa have not been elected by Africans. They are not our leaders. We have not put these leaders in power. So the arrogance that our leaders have It's because of the forces behind them that put them in place. So let's talk, for instance, the situation of Congo right now, Congo DRC to be specific. The situation of Congo DRC, as you say, President Kabila, such a young man, will have pretty much said a difference. The problem is the stubbornness from him. We have to understand the root of the situation in the Congo. The situation in the Congo has been seen by many as a peaceful transition when Kabila the father came in and now Kabila the son. But when you look at it really nice, the situation in the Congo is an invasion. Because when Kabila, Laurent Kabila the father came in, he came in with help from Rwanda and Uganda, where we were, of course, with the blessing of the United States. So now, in his absence, when we have the younger Kabila, Joseph Kabila, we have something that we might consider a young leader, a new blood, or fresh blood that can bring change to the nation. But why we don't have these changes to the nation? It's because of the powerful forces behind the invasion or behind this so-called government. So what we have going on right now, there's no democracy in the Congo. Democracy will never take place. Nothing will ever happen in the Congo in any form of a democracy. And that is not there, and we have not seen that for the last 16, 20 years.
Now, Congo is endowed. Congo is endowed with a lot of natural resources. A lot of natural resources. Now, do you believe that some of these causes in Congo could be the wealth of the country which is causing that, in terms of people trying to manipulate
and
monopolize the wealth of the country at the expense of the masses?
Yes, sir. I can clearly give you an answer on that.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. The situation that we have in the Congo since 1950s, let's to be exact, 1959, up to date. The Congo's wealth is the biggest curse Congo has. Now, the wealth of Congo, it fuels the world. It powers the powerful countries to function. If Congo did not have the minerals that it has today, or it has been discovered today, there will have been peace in the Congo. So, as you said, it came from your own question. That is the minerals, the wealth Congo has, that is the cause of the conflict. Because, truly speaking, the Congolese people have not been or never took charge to lead their own country. We can go back even in the time of Mobutu. 32 years Mobutu was there. But that was just a puppet, a picture for the Western world, or which we can pretty much call the international community. So any leader we have in the Congo from the 1960s to today, they're working for the international community. They're working for powerful nations. That's why we have trouble in the Congo. Yes, there's a curse of our work in the Congo, my brother. Kofi.
Let me add something.
Yes, Bushala Buamba want to add something.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Yes, what is happening now in Congo is something that we don't know exactly what to call it, because most of the powerful countries in the world are right now working in Congo, taking all the natural resources, minerals, and they don't even not invest in Congo where they take all this mineral. I take the example of the east of Africa, of Congo, where you have all this coltan. Coltan is one of the very strong mineral in electronics that help the companies to make device like iPhone, like touch screen TVs, and all this stuff they use in special companies. But in that area of our country, people are very poor, and you have almost 52 small group of the militia that kill civilians, violent people, and they make that area very insecure. It is the place where all these big nations go and dig our land and they take all the minerals. But when they kill people in Congo, nobody say word on that. If people die in France or in US, even 5 people, is a big problem. All the TVs and the radio will talk for months. But there is 12 million of civilians killed between 1997 to today. Is more than a genocide. Nobody says nothing on that. It's just because of our minerals, like my friend Francois Masanka told you. That's the cause of the instability and the crisis in our country. And the Kabila never been elected in our country. He never been elected. There is no democracy in Congo. Everything you see there is just the mascara. The white people, they just say democracy, but in truth, there is no democracy in Congo. On the 19th of December 2016, Kabila government term was finished, but Kabila just refused to step down, and he took the power illegally until now. He doesn't have any power to nominate the Prime Minister, but he's still doing every day. Even yesterday, he nominated a new Prime Minister. Instead of to find a solution to the problem of Congo, is creating more problem to the problem of Congo. The problem is Kabila is working for the big power nation who are working in our country, are taking oil, diamond, coltan, all this kind of mineral. That's the big issue in Congo.
Yes. You done?
No, that's one of the...
Yes. Let's move on here now. Let's move on here now.
Okay, go ahead, Brother Kofi. Go ahead.
They said that there have been some, beheadings, mass graves, and child soldiers, so many things, and of course, including the killing of some foreign aid workers. We know recently, at least, a UN Swedish employee, from Stockholm, and one other person were killed, and their bodies taken out of Congo to their respective countries. The ICC is warning the powers that be, by the International Criminal Court, is warning the powers that be on the violence in the Congo. And the list goes on and on. We have this one time the warlord Thomas Lubanga, who was sentenced to 14 years in prison for using children as soldiers, and so many things now. There is no democracy in Congo, as you are saying. We just heard of the dictatorial regime in Ethiopia and elsewhere in Africa. What do you think would bring peace? We know that they have this power sharing stuff that eventually made the prime minister to resign. But what do you really think is the way forward for a rich country like Congo to find peace? What are some of the things?
Okay. Bushala, you want to answer that, or you want me to answer that?
Let me answer you add some more information. Brother Kofi, I know that you have all information about my country. That's why you know exactly Thomas Lubanga, all these people who are interacting in our daily politics in Congo. To bring peace in Congo is just one thing. Congolese people, they don't want to have the Rwanda, Uganda, and all these countries to interfere in the Congo decision. Because right now, like my brother François said, we have invasion since 1997. Everybody thought that when Laurent Desire Kabila came in power, that was a good thing to change the dictatorship of Mobutu to democracy. But when Laurent Kabila came, he didn't even start the democracy. He just shut down everything.
Professor Small, I'm on the line.
Oh, okay, excellent. Okay.
Hello?
No, go ahead. We just had Professor Small joining us now. So you finish your narrative. Go ahead.
Yes. When Laurent Kabila came, he just canceled everything, the progress of democracy that was started in National Conference. The one took place in 1992 in Congo. And he shut down everything. He stopped all the opposition party activity. He said, for now, we don't want democracy. And he didn't work for long. After 4 years of being at the head of the state, he was killed. And then we have the young Kabila, who is in power till now. The Kabila who is in power is originally from Rwanda. And people of Africa need to know that is not a Congolese man. We cannot accept to be ruled by a strange guy. He came from a neighbor country, and now he's working not for the Congolese citizen. He's working for the Rwanda country. You can look on internet. The city of Kigali, how is built, how is beautiful, how is strong and rich. But you can look on Kinshasa, where Kabila is the president, the capital of Congo. He is now destroyed, and he doesn't care because he knows that it's not his country. To have a peace in Congo, we need all the Rwandans, the Ugandans, and all this nation who invited us to go back to their country. And the Congolese can have a transition, a peace transition, to go to the election. We cannot think election with Kabila at the head of our state. François, I think you can have some more.
Yeah, let's go to Professor Small now. Prof.
Okay, yeah. I will add something later. Let's welcome Brother Small.
Yes. Well, I'm just coming in. I heard some of that dialogue, and I know there are things I don't know about Congo. There's a lot that we don't know about Congo over here because you speak French, and we tend not to get the news from the French-speaking areas. And we find that many of our brothers and sisters from the Congo tend not to hook up with us African Americans. I don't know whether you're afraid of our politics, but we have to find more ways to interface with us because white Americans are not going to help you save Congo. I wanted to put that out there to my brothers up front. Secondly, my big concern, I know we've got to deal with the question of the President Kabila. I don't know what his ethnicity is until now. I thought his father fought beside Patrice Lumumba's people.
Yes, sir. Let me correct you that before you continue. He's not actually his father, stepfather. But now you can continue.
It's his stepfather. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But I'm an African like you. We don't play the stepfather game. Remember that. We don't do that. Okay. That's not an African thing. I'm the father to many children in Africa, and our genes doesn't cross at all. But my role as father is father. The problem with Kabila is not that he's from Rwanda, because if we take the borders down between Angola, Rwanda, and Congo, we won't even recognize difference in each other. What the problem is the imperialist states that we are afraid to deal with, particularly the American corporate structure, and now the Chinese corporate structure, the Belgian corporate structure, the French corporate structure, and the Canadians. And their interest in the raw material of this land, and they're extracting this raw material, and have sat back for the last 20 years and saw the death of nearly 15 million of our people, and the mutilation of millions of our women by these mercenaries and these crazy so-called militia groups running around our land, but being armed by arms coming out of Russia, out of Israel, and out of Turkey. And so we need to be very clear who our friends are and who our enemies are. Kabila is definitely not a friend of the Congo. I'll give you that. He's the president. I don't care where he comes from. But it's his behavior that is evil, corrupt, and it should be bordering on genocide. Because from what we are seeing in Kasai, and with the discovering of these mass graves in Kasai, and even the UN, the BBC is the only network I know that have carried it, that have talked about these murders and these mass graves. That's genocide. And we should be raising the question of genocide in the Congo, and that the president and his government is squarely behind it, along with his Western corporate allies. If we let them off the hook, no matter who we put in there, they'll either kill them or corrupt them. And so we've got to call all the spades a spade. If we're to free our people, we've got to stand with our chest bare so we are clear on who we are and we are clear on who our enemies are. Because this thing in the Congo has been going on now for almost 500 years. Non-stop. The only break we got it when Patrice Lumumba made his effort. And after the Americans and the Belgians and French murdered him, we have been in hell ever since. And so we've got to tell the truth about the situation and be clear.
Professor Smalls, thank you so much. I'm going to just add a little bit to what you're saying so our guests can also respond. How are you doing, Professor Smalls?
I'm good, sir. I'm good. Good to hear you.
Kwame. Yeah.
It's Kwame. Good to hear you, sir.
Yeah, good to hear again all the time. So to add to that, what do you make of, to our guests, and of course everybody else, what do you make of the appointment just yesterday of the election or appointment of the ex-position leader as the prime minister or co-president or whatever you want to call him in Congo? This was just yesterday. I don't know if you're aware of it or not. But anyway, I will listen to you. Go ahead.
Prof.
Yes, sir.
This is Sadiq. I wanted to chime in. Yeah. Oh, thank you very much for being with us. I wanted to chime in on the issue with the Congo. It's been a thing that has been going on behind the scenes, and I know this firsthand. In 2009, there was one of the second running mate for the presidency in the elections came to visit New York City and requested that my colleague and I take him to the State Department to get support for his, campaign. My colleague took him to the State Department, and in trying to solicit support, what my colleague and the presidential candidate were told is that because of the Clinton factor in the Congo, the Clintons' support for the Kabila, family, the State Department cannot actually support this presidential candidate. I am saying this to put a perspective into our conversation as to what is actually going on in the Congo. One, the mineral resource in the Congo has been a problem since the country decided to get its independence from the Belgians in 1956, I believe, or 57. Kwame Nkrumah's address to the United Nations specifically isolated the case of the Congo and talked about how the Western Bloc is manipulating affairs in the Congo with the Belgians to give the Belgians access to the mineral wealth of Congo and to create a discordant government. One, before the Belgians received a rebellion from the Congolese, the existing paradigm was that the Congolese policemen and civilians serving the government were ill-trained deliberately to make it impossible for them to be able to even control their own country in case they rebelled against the Belgian regime.
And you remember, they didn't even want to issue them firearms.
That is absolutely true. So, moving forward, today we have the same Western Bloc using the same techniques of keeping a puppet regime in place so that they can control the Congo. And we need a force that can withstand the hegemonic Western powers, or else the Congo would always remain the way it is, because that is a very powerful country and the heart of Africa. So I don't know if this is the right platform, but a very strategic, intelligent mechanism needs to be put in place that will checkmate some countries around the world before we can save the Congo.
Yeah, I think this is the first good step. I think we've got to speak more on the Congo. Every opportunity we get to get on a radio show, to get on these TV, internet shows, to get on the social media, we've got to let the world know of the atrocities going on in the Congo. We have to let the world know of the behavior of a criminal government that's been going on for almost, 2 decades now. We've got to be able to show the history of the Congo, starting with Leopold, coming up to today. But let's not excuse the Western governments, France, Britain, America, Canada, Israel, and their current role in supporting this Kabila regime. They talk about changing regime in Syria, and 70 people get killed in Syria, and the whole world is up in arms, and no one should die. I sympathize with the Syrian people, but the whole world media reacts. But we have lost thousands in Kasai alone, and we don't hear nothing about it.
No coverage.
So we've got to keep putting it out here as often as we can do it, and do more research so we can call the player's name. What is the name of the major corporations running the mining in the country? We know they built their big freeways from the mining area to the ports to steal our raw materials. So let's call them out to the world and let them.
Brother Kofi, and the rest of our other brothers listening. You have a perfect idea. We both have a perfect idea. We have to broadcast ourselves and we have to call dogs by their names. But we need to understand one thing. Our problem is just like our history. We all went to the so-called school system, which we went through our educational system that we call ourselves educated today. But when you look at it, it's not a system that we put it together ourselves, or the system that was put together by our ancestors. So is our politics system. So is our history. The history we study about Africa is not our history. So going back to the same thing that you just said about broadcasting, talk about it more. The world we needed to talk to is our own people, our own Africans. Because if we can come together, when it comes to our own situations, we will be able to find solution for whatever we are going through. Okay.
I agree.
Yes. Yeah, adding something a little bit from what my colleague Bushala Buamba left. The situation in Congo, I believe, Bushala Buamba wanted to be more polite and more political, but I'm not political. I'm going to tell you the way it is.
Good. We like
what
it.
we
That's
need in the Congo. What we need in the Congo, my brother, the way forward is a revolution in the Congo. And this revolution, the Congolese people and the rest of our other brothers, we needed to stand together. Because, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because if we were to get help from the Western capitals, from anybody else outside of Africa, we have a problem. We are going to be manipulated by the same people been manipulating the elders who came in front of us. Look at the situation of Mugabe in Zimbabwe today. I know you understand very well the deal that went through between the British and the Mugabe in Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm.
But after 10 years, the British did not want to honor the deal they signed for 10 years to repay him and return the land. And then when he told them, okay, you don't want to pay, you breach the material, you breach the contract we agree upon, guess what? I'm going to kick all the white farmers out. Okay, they label him as what? As a dictator, as a bad guy, and he get all the sanctions in the world. So the way forward for the Congolese, for Africans, is a revolution from within.
I couldn't agree with you more. We have to
Thank you, my brother.
Destroy the foundation of colonial education in our schools, in these religious schools that perpetuate colonial mental dominance in our countries. We need to start bush schools and schools in our living rooms, again, to teach the history the way we want it taught to our young people. And we need to begin to understand is freedom or death. We are dying anyway. We are dying anyway.
What do we have to lose? What do we have to lose if we were to stand up as a revolutionary group right now? For instance, my brother, let me mention one point to you. Me and the Bushala Buamba, we belong to a group that is called Kamwina Nsapu. Kamwina Nsapu is a traditional leader who refused to be bought by Kabila's government, to join Kabila's political party. The man was attacked as a traditional leaders in our country, traditional chief. You know we are not to be messed with because we don't come in through elections.
Right.
We gained that power from the bloodline, from our ancestors, from our family, from our grandfathers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Kabila understood that the only people that have some kind of a power and the leg to stand on in Congo are the traditional leaders, traditional chiefs. So he started buying them. If you cannot be bought, okay, you disappear tomorrow. You will be assassinated. Now we have some in Kasai that told them no. They're being attacked. That's the biggest confusion in Kasai. Nobody's talking about it. Now, if we were to support this kind of movement, this kind of ideas, stand and build this revolutionary group from within ourselves, without getting help from outside, my brother, we will have a totally different Africa to live in for our children, our grandchildren.
Oh, I agree.
You know what?
To be free is to return to our state of mind that existed before we met this European.
Yes,
to
sir.
move from that state of mind, from that consciousness, to build the world our ancestors were building before we met these people. And we cannot be afraid because we have nothing to lose.
We have nothing to lose, my brother. We're already dying. We are already dying.
You know, I can agree more with what you are saying because we know that the Western powers and the U.S. of A have vested interest in keeping Africa divided so they can steal the natural wealth of the country. And like Fela said, the Afrobeat king, may his soul rest in peace, they all the time have a way of supporting someone that they can manipulate to put the person in power. Then they put their scheme into play at the expense of common man. You know, when this tribal chief Jane Ntambue was killed, that was basically the of hell in the region of Kasai. You know, and just as our brother said, if you are a traditional chief and you cannot be bought by Kabila, you get lost. And that is what the West likes, and that is what it ended. Do that and look elsewhere. See that everywhere. The regime will be there as a dictatorial regime so long as they follow the tenets of the West. That regime will be protected. And when you get people who attempt to stand up for their own people, they term them troublemakers. But like Professor Small and you are saying, until and unless we go back to our roots and redefine our African personality and identity, we are not going to know any peace from the West and America. Assuming Africa unite like United States of America with one president, one military force, one monetary concept. Where do you think America and the West will be? Because then Africa will be powerful enough to speak with them and to them on equal footing. But what do we see now? Recently, a funny thing happened in Ghana. The country is basically at war against illegal prospecting of gold, known in the local police as Galamsey. You look at pictures, almost all the water bodies in Ghana have been polluted. And we heard land when he met the representatives of the Chinese embassy, he virtually begged their representatives to advise their people not to engage in this illegal mining because the Chinese basically are doing it with some Indians but fronted by Ghanaians.
Yes.
Here is a case that a home minister is alleged to be begging the Chinese officials. Can the reverse happen? That Ghanaians will go to China and pollute their waters?
It'll never happen.
Listen, I just left Ghana a few weeks ago, and I was in the western region and looking from the bridge at the Pra, and you could not believe what you were seeing. It's red.
Yes.
With poison.
And the minister goes to virtually beg the Chinese ambassador to talk to his people. Beg. If I was a president in Ghana, that minister would have gone.
Well, we need an African understanding. We need an African nationalism. We need a Pan-African nationalism that is rooted in our indigenous inheritance. And we cannot make any excuse anymore for halfway measures when it comes to referring back to our ancestral indigeny, when it comes to developing industry or anything else, because we can develop industry and make it safe and clean. We do not have to poison ourselves as the West have done in order to survive.
Yes.
We can provide the food, clothing, shelter our people need. We have it all in the land. And we are begging. Here, we're the richest people in the world. And we're begging the poorest people in the world because they're stealing our wealth.
It's flipped upside down.
So we have to wake up and make common sense count for something.
Well,
and it has to start with a re-education.
Brother Small.
Yes, sir.
One thing I want to mention, and I want to make it clear to all my brothers. The other brother speaking, is that a brother Kambale?
No, Kambale, he did not come on the program. I don't know why, because he was scheduled to have. I think it is the co-MC, the co-host who was speaking. I think either him or the producer.
Okay, yeah. What I want to add to that, one thing we all have to understand. You mentioned something about the Pan-Africanism. This change, this generation, us, we are the hope, and this is the time. And we have to do it.
I agree. It's got to be now or never.
Yes, sir, because there's been a lot of talking. We have been talking for years. If you look at it really well, most of the leaders, they come ahead of us. I'm from Congo. I'm going to give you an example. If you look at the people like Etienne Tsigereda, I have a respect for the old man. He did a lot. If you look at Patrice Lumumba, if you look at Mobutu, and all the group of the politicians of that time, most of these people went to white school.
Yes.
But they did not live with white men.
No.
We get a chance to live with white men and be part of the white man system. I've been in the U.S. almost all my life. My eyes have seen a lot.
That's
and I'm
good.
not alone.
That's good.
What are we waiting for?
We know this man. We know him. We've suffered under him for 300 years. We know him like we know the palm of our hand. And there is no brotherhood in there for us. There's no friendship in there for Africa. There's no love in there for Africa.
Yeah, he has shown it to us. He has shown it to us. Look. I want to mention something to you. Did you know that for the last 8 years, President Obama was in the White House? Do you know how many black people we lost in the United States of America killed? I don't even say killed, assassinated by the police officers?
It was the largest in the history.
Largest in history. And what are we waiting for? What else is out there for us? As a black man, when I leave my house, I don't know if I'm going to come back. I don't know who's going to stop me. Same thing goes for my own children. And then my own home is cooking by the same person that is not making me comfortable. The time is now, my brother. We talk about it, we have to talk about it, and we have to do. Talk and do.
And we have to make sure that we use all of the technology, this social media. We have to use this internet to get information to our people. We must use radios. We must even use the flyer, the leaflet, whatever it takes. We've got to be willing to do it.
973-4096-422. 973-4096-422. Let's open the lines. We have like 12 more minutes to go. And of course, as we continue to chat, we will open the lines. You have question, comment, please go ahead. And
Brother Kofi.
Yes.
I'm here.
Yeah, as we are opening the lines, I think there are two things that we actually haven't touched on.
Okay.
And I think we need to stress on those. One, the influence of the, what do you call it, Ugandan government, the influence of the Rwandan government, the collusion between the Rwandan and Ugandan government with the West to be used as proxies against their neighbor.
Right.
The
right.
fact that the Ugandan regime does not have resources, but it's stealing the resources from the Congo to ship and sell to their Western colleagues. The same with the Rwandan government. So these are things that need to be emphasized because those are the most proximal regimes that are being used against the Congolese people.
Yeah, and in the same vein, I was still looking for the answer to the question that I asked, and maybe some of them can comment about the opposition leader who is now being more or less co-opted since yesterday to be the prime minister. If anybody can comment on that would be great, because it's in the same questioning or line of thinking.
I'm Bushala Buamba. I would like just to add some comment on the Congo issue. The thing you just mentioned now about Uganda and Rwanda influence on Congolese government is very, very important to the people of Africa to know that the Rwanda came to Congo. He claimed that he came to Congo just to hunt the Hutu Ntambue militia. That's who was responsible for the 1994 genocide that was covered by the army and all the rebels. But once they get to the power, they find out that Congo is more rich, is a very, very rich country. They say, okay, now we don't want to look for Hutu Ntambue anymore. We need to stay here and find how we can get money from this country. That's why they use corruption in our political leaders to maintain Kabila even illegally at the head of the state. The Rwanda and Uganda are the major players in the instability of the Congolese politics. We need to ask all our fellow brothers around Africa to do something. Even the commission, I know that the commission in Addis Ababa, they don't work for Congolese people because they are working for the multinational. There is several companies that are stated to be behind all this violation of business ethics in Congo. There is a company like Afrimex, export of coltan. You have Knight International Ltd. You have Alex, I think is Alex Award. You have Anglo American Gold. All these big companies who work in mineral industry are not able to accept any change in our country. My colleague Francois just said that Congolese today need a radical change that we call in politics revolution. That we can just destroy everything and start over with the politics. Because since 1960, when the Congolese get independence until now, Congolese leaders are not able to be responsible for their people. Congo is the very, very rich country in the world. But if you compare the life, the daily life of the citizen, is very, very sad to see that we are living under $3 per day. under $3. It's nonsense. We cannot keep talking, and not giving the answer to the problem. The problem is the multinational that we just cite, which is working with a country like Rwanda and Uganda to maintain the imperialism in our country, to take everything for free, even for cheaper. They don't want Kabila to go. They kill people in Kasai. Our movement, the movement that the Chief Kamwina Sapu started on
August
July.
Last year. Yeah.
Yes, July 2016, because he said, I cannot accept to be chief at the head of the many people who are suffering every day. We have to stop this. And the reason why he just started the war with the Kabila government. And that's the big problem, is because our country never been free. We never get free election in our country. All the time, we have the United Nations Army. They are in Congo for almost 20 years now. They call MONUSCO. The MONUSCO, they don't work for peace in Congo. They are the business people.
Yeah, they're in full complicity with the multinational. The UN works as an arm of the multinational.
They're now working for the peace.
Yeah, there's. I know we're running out of time, but my colleague Bushala Buamba, let me add something also that we can bring to the attention of our people. I'm involved with some oil field, drilling oil here in the United States. And I have witnessed myself high-end equipment. I'm talking about a heavy, expensive equipment by the companies that I cannot pinpoint right now as we speak, here in Texas, being shipped to Uganda. And when I went behind to talk to some of the engineers, friends, and everything, everybody was telling me there's a major drilling going on in Uganda. But the reserve is in the Congo of the deposits being drilled. So you can see all these big multinational, however you call them, the beast, whoever they are actually protecting and working together with our neighbors like Uganda and Rwanda. And I can bring same thing about Rwanda. Last year, you guys know that Rwanda was reported the #1 in Africa producer of columbite tantalite. But Rwanda, this little small, where they get that much columbite tantalite to even be noticed in the world. So all that columbite tantalite is coming from Congo. So the same way Uganda is drilling the Congolese oil. It's being drilled as we speak by U.S. companies.
Well, the key, again, we are doing the first step. Get the information out so that other activists and other conscious Pan-Africanist nationalists across the country, across the continent, can begin to hear this information and begin to do their own research and begin to do their own activism to bring pressure from every quarter. We can't underestimate the power of information.
Yes,
the power of information to the masses. Just wanted to make that point.
Of course. Okay, thank you very much, my brother. And that's what I'm calling to every one of our brothers listening all over the world. This Congo issue, this Africa issue belongs to us. It concerns us. And we must act on it.
Well, I think we have if you wanted to ask a question, if she's still on, she can go ahead as we attempt to wrap up. We just give you all 1 minute to do a summation. But Sophie, if you are still please go ahead with your question quick or comment.
Okay. Thank you very much. I just want to say that if all African countries, as we speak, are poor and desert, 2 African continents could be saved if we are able to develop the $24 trillion worth minerals in DRC. Okay? Translation, that's the GDP of United States and EU together.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need is to clap our hands together, Africans to come together, Pan-Africanist. We also have to involve the African American community, as my brother Dr. Kwame always mentions, bridging the gap. We have to involve even the elites to look into DRC, because I see people like Ben Affleck, hovering around DRC. So we need to galvanize people. We need to use the traditional way of judging, using, under a tree perhaps. But what we need is each other and bring everyone together to alert people. I was at the UN the other day when I mentioned that DRC has $24 trillion worth of minerals. People's eyebrows raised. I said, didn't you know this? Yes, you do. But we have lost already 15 million people in the past 20 years, as my brother said. So we need to open our eyes. We need to send out information, as much as possible for people to have consciousness on the issue. We need to save DRC so we can save the rest of Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, my sister.
We will go by the 3 of you to give just a minute or two summation. We will start with the other brother. I didn't get his name well. Not Bushala, Buamba. The other one.
The other one, me?
Yes.
Yes. Francois Masanka, but as I told the Bushala, I don't go by Francois. Was a name given to me by my parents. I respect that, but I would like to go with by the name of Masanka Ntambue.
The Masanka is K.A., right?
Masanka.
Yes, sir. Masanka, yes, sir.
Masanka, what's the last one?
Ntambue.
Can you spell that?
Yeah, it starts with N, letter N like a Nancy, T as a Tom, A as an apple, M as Mary, B as a boy,
okay,
letter U as under, and then letter E as Edward.
Okay.
Somewhere.
So you go. You have a minute and a half summation. We do you and Professor Small. Then our producer will come and end it. So please go ahead with you got a minute and a half. Go ahead.
Okay.
Ntambue, yes. The summation for today.
Well.
For today.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually.
What do you want to tell people, our listeners, about?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
What I want to tell the people, mainly our people, the African people, of course, are the ones who are listening. My message to my people is our history that was taught to us was never written by us. The history that was written to us by our ancestors has been hidden away. That's why we don't know in which direction we are heading. The time has come for us ourselves, this generation, to start doing our work, to be responsible for our own destiny. That's what I have to have.
Excellent. Let's go to Bushala Buamba. Your closing remarks, please.
Thank you. Thank you. I just need to tell the people that Congo is dying. If African still watching us, someone need to save Africa. We are working every day. People are dying in Kasai right now. There is a genocide going on now because the multinational people, they found the mineral in Chimbulu where the chief Kamwina Sapo is the chief. That's why they want to kill everybody in those villages and start digging our land and take the mineral. We need those people to stop with our country. We don't want the interference of Rwanda and Uganda in our interior politics. Save Congo. That's what I need African people to listen.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. One of the things, and I'd like to thank both of my brothers for coming on so strong at the last minute. I respect you and thank you again very much. I would like to say to our brothers and sisters listening around the world, pick up your telephone, call the African Union chief, call the UN Secretary General, ask why we are not hearing about the 23 mass graves found in Kasai since August. Ask why we have not heard news about the 13 mass graves found in the Democratic Republic of Congo in Kasai just since March. Why aren't we hearing? We want to know. Put pressure. Use your internet. Use your email. Use your all of your technology to let the United Nations know that we know and that we are aware, and to let the African Union know that we know and we are aware, and we're now calling on their accountability. And at the same time, inform your organizations and your community using all of your medium and all your social media networks to get this word out. You can now go and do your research on Kasai, Kasai, and look at what's going on there. You can do your research on the Democratic Republic of Congo, look at its history, and look at what's going on. Share that information on your social network, and let's push to get as much action and response as we can.
And Tsigereda, 1.5 minutes into our 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes. The problem that we have in Africa, whether it's in DRC, in Congo, or in Ethiopia, or elsewhere, 6 different countries in Africa that jeopardize the GDP of Africa by 2% annually. Those are conflict-ridden countries, especially DRC. My heart goes out to both Ethiopia and DRC. DRC is a valuable country, valuable human beings there. They've been extracting their resources, and actually the UN has not really lent its hands to stop the fire. We, at the grassroots level, we have to build up bottom-up movement to really address these issues for the safety of DRC, our DRC brothers and sisters and family, and Ethiopian people as well, who are suffering under human rights and degradation of life. I thank you so much, but what it needs is Africans and all collaboration to address the African issue for sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sister.
Zedeye, before you come to close the show, are we aware that the River Congo, the volume of water that the River Congo empties into the Atlantic is more than that of the Nile into the Mediterranean, and that if we could get peace in that region, because I know that there are plans from the River Congo, a canal or something to be dug all the way into Egypt to stem this thing. But if there is no peace, not only in the Democratic Republic of Congo, but around the neighborhood, if there is no peace, we cannot develop our infrastructure, Africa. And with that, we'll go to the producer to close this show for us. Zedeye, over to you.
Thank you very much, Brother Kofi. This has been a wonderful program in so many dimensions. The information is heavy. The sentiments are heavier. The plight of the people that are being affected, it's even much more concerning. But in the end, we've started a process that is supposed to get us somewhere. That somewhere we are all defining as a liberated Africa from the shackles of global corporations and their evil intentions. Let me take this opportunity to thank our guests. Today we've had Dr. Taye and Sophie for our discussion on Ethiopia. We've also had Masanka Ntambue.
Yes,
and,
sir.
Bushala, Professor James Small, and yours truly, our host and co-host, Kofi Ayim and Professor Kwame Akono, and with Bella on the console in Ghana. Thank you all very much for being with us this weekend. It's very emotionally draining, but I would end with this statement. Africa would never be safe from the West until it gives the West a reason to respect it and to leave it alone. And if it's going to do business with Africa fairly. And this is the time we need to stand up and do our best to change this paradigm. Thank you all, and you all have a great weekend. Next week, we'll be discussing the
direction of studies.
Yeah, the direction of Africana studies, the need for it and its direction, which is going to be... Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much, Professor Kwame Akono. And on that note, we say thank you all. Have a great weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Ghana Radio Forward.
Okay, I have a quick question. What is the schedule for the next week? Because I would like to be present also.
It's the same time, 2 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. And like you said, we are going to discuss the direction of Africana studies on the continent and outside the continent. Is it being beneficial to us? And
okay.
time between 2 and 4. So if, of course, you want to be a guest, please. And, Brother Small, we don't know where you'll be, but you coming on.
We'd like to have you.
Get you on there, so.
We'd like to have you, so.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Bye. What's up?
Oui.
Bon, il m'a encore pingué on coupe le toggle le moteur donc
OK.
Ouais.
Add.
Jersey Ghana Radio yet to so. 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 Jersey Ghana Radio, yet to so. Jersey Ghana Radio, yet to so. Jersey Ghana Radio, yet to so.
Yes.
Jersey Ghana Radio, yet to so. 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 Jersey Ghana